My thoughts on sex dolls. Men need pleasure too. We need toys too. Women have two types of toys. They have the dildo and they have the vibrator. Men barely have these things, and I say barely by a large margin. We have some primitive toys that men can insert themselves into and hold by hand. But with men, our pleasures are different. We want the whole thing, not just part of it. So men prefer dolls if we're going to have toys like women have toys. Of course, as of late, there has been the accelerated success of the waifu. The waifu is a sex doll. There's another toy coming up too, and that's the sex robot. There's a technical term for that, but basically it's just a waifu with a CPU and other electronic controls. Like you can get it to talk, you can get it to move its mouth, uh, certain things like that for sexual pleasures. It's not able to walk yet and change positions and postures on its own yet, but I'm pretty sure in due time that will happen. But for now, just the basic stock waifu or sex doll minus the sex robot part is the best option for men. Personally, I think it's a good alternative, just given the way a lot of females are starting to show their female nature, and a lot of them aren't true women these days at all. So what is a man to do, knowing that every female he runs into out here, he can't pair bond? She's caught up in some type of issues. You know, she's got her own demons. She's caught up in bad aspects of spirituality or religion. She's got a scorned past. A man wants to implement himself to be righteous amongst that woman in his own way. But ultimately, it comes down to sexual gratification with that woman or a sense of intimacy. What a man gets out of a sex doll may not necessarily be the intimacy, but the sexual gratification from that doll will satisfy his lack of intimacy. It helps him to be more it helps him to be more intimate with himself, so that if in turn one day he does run into a real woman, he hasn't lost that intimacy. See, around these females instead of real women per se, men lose their intimacy all the time. So that's why most men are avoiding the feminine gender altogether. And a lot of them are resorting to sex dolls. But see, a lot of females out here that get these dildos and vibrators, they don't get those things in regards to sexual gratification or intimacy, I believe. I believe it's just something to get them by. For men, it's about true sexual gratification. It's not just merely trying to get by. I would only say to a certain extent, because you may have a guy who's going through a dry spell with women, or he's just taking a break from them per se. But I think for the most part, for the guys who haven't had a lot of female encounters lately, for them it is a true balance, because they're not getting that from the females they encounter. So they need some way to just deal with a lot of their urges instead of just fapping all the time, you know. And I think for a man, it also helps him with position practice, if you know what I mean. But not really much more to say about it. But I think that's my thoughts overall on sex dolls. It's just something that I think is going to be on the rise, as men have noticed that they're not going to get much intimacy from these women because they're not real women at all. They're still typical females who, for the longest, have had their dildos and they've had their vibrators and they've used it just to get by, not knowing that they lack intimacy, not knowing that they're not even using that dildo or that vibrator to balance out their lack of intimacy at times because they don't even know that they lack intimacy themselves. But I think it should be all fair and square. I say that because they're trying to actually ban sex dolls from men. They should ban dildos too and ban vibrators if that's going to be the case. Signing out.